Hello everyone, I hope you're having a super day. This video is for Module 10, Performing What-If Analyses, found on page EX652. Yes, we've reached page EX652 in this book. We're doing Module 10, Performing What-If Analyses. I will be completing the review assignment on page EX652. You will be using the Snow workbook to continue with this review assignment. So if necessary, go out to Blackboard, Student Files, and retrieve snow.xlsx. I've got mine saved on my desktop, so I'm okay. While you're retrieving that, I will read the first paragraph here. It says, Cultivar Tool also produces and sells a line of snow blowers. As you did with the company's line of power lawn mowers, Arena wants you to perform a what-if analysis on the company's income statement for its snowblower line. She wants you to create one variable and two variable data tables to determine the break-even point for sales and use Scenario Manager to explore the impact on the profitability of the line under different possible scenarios. Finally, she wants you to calculate the product mix that will result in the maximum net income to the company. Complete the following. Step 1. Open the snow.xlsx workbook. We're going to save it as snow blowers. This is very important to name your files correctly. So I'm going to go to File, Save As. I'm going to browse to tell it that I want to save it to my desktop. And I'm going to change the name from Snow to Snow Blowers. Now I'm going to get a message that says, do you want to replace the one that's on there? And I'm going to say yes. Okay. That's step number 1. We now have a workbook open called Snow Blowers. Step 2. In the documentation worksheet, enter your name and date. Today is 07/11/2019. Okay, that's step number 2. Step number 3, in the income statement worksheet, so we have a number of different worksheets down here. Make sure you're on the right one. The income statement worksheet. In the range D6 to G6, enter formulas that reference units sold value in cell B6 and the revenue, expenses, and net income values in the range B26 to B28. So directly underneath units sold in D6, I'm going to do equals and click on B6. And hit enter. That's what they're referring to. Units sold is referencing B6 over here. Revenue then, so I click on E6 and I do equals, and revenue is found in the range that they tell me to look into, B26. So there's total revenue. I hit enter. I repeat the same process for expenses. I hit equals, scroll down, find it in B27, hit enter, and then I repeat the process for net income. I click in G6, equals, do equals, and click on B28. Okay, so that is step number 3. Step number 4, create a one variable data table in the range D7 to G16 using units sold values that range from 1,000 to 10,000 in increments of 1,000. So I start in D7 and I type 1,000. Now it says in increments of 1,000, so I add 1,000 to that and I get, of course, 2,000. Now, to save myself some time, I can highlight both of these cells, use my fill handle, and it will continue to count by the 1,000, except it's not working. So highlight these two cells, use my fill handle. Now why is that not working? It should continue to count by 1,000 for me, and I'm not seeing that. So I will just continue to do 3,000, 4,000. Now that's not right, that's not working. Let me try this again. Highlight those two numbers, and now it's working. I don't know what was going on before, but there you go. You want to get the range 1,000 to 10,000. The easiest way to do that is to type the first two numbers so it knows what range you're using. So if I highlight 1,000 to 2,000, I should be able to use my fill handle, and now it's working, and scroll down to 10,000. Or you, as you can see, you could type it individually. Now, to create my one variable data table, which they want me to create, they're asking me to do so in step number 4, I highlight the range D6 down to G16. Okay, I do not want to include my labels. You do not want to include your labels. I find the one variable data table by going to data, and of course this chapter is called what if analysis, so I go to what if analysis and data table. Now in order to complete a one variable data table, which is what we're doing right now, we only have to fill in one of these. Later we're going to do a two variable data table in which I will have to fill in both of these boxes. But again, we're doing a one variable data table, so I only have to fill in one. And I look at my table, and my units sold are all in a column. So my column is the one that I'm going to use, my column input cell. And what I want to do is tell it what cell do I want to put the 1,000, then the 2,000, then the 3,000. Well, my label kind of helps me. It's units sold, which is B6. So literally put 1,000 in there, calculate my revenue, expenses, and net income, then put 2,000 in there, calculate, and it will fill in this table for me. I'll click OK, and look at that. It fills it in. It literally put 1,000 into cell B6 and then calculated my revenue, expenses, and net income. Then it put 2,000 in there, calculated my net revenue, expenses, and net income, and did that all the way down for each one of the units sold values that I placed there. So that's step number 4. Step number 5, create a cost volume profit chart of the revenue and expenses values in the one variable data table. Resize the chart so that it covers the range D17 to G28. Format the chart so that it is easy to read and displays the break-even point. So I'm going to highlight the range D6. I'm going to highlight D5 down to G16. I need to include my label so it knows what to put as my titles on my axes. All right. So I go to Insert, which is where we find all of our charts. I'm going to go to this one that says Insert Scattered or Bubble Chart and drop it down. And I'm going to use this one right here. Okay, actually, I do not include my labels. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I don't want net income. There's my problem. It says for revenue and see, this is where if you don't read the instructions carefully, it says create a cost volume profit chart of the revenue and expenses. It does not want net income. So I select D5 to F16. See, I didn't read the instructions carefully enough, but I knew there was something wrong when I was doing the chart. So back I go to Insert, drop the arrow down, go back to my scattered with straight lines. This is what I'm going to use. They don't exactly state that in the instructions, but I happen to know that's the one I want to use. I click, and where the lines cross is known as my break-even point. And in the instructions, they want me to definitely show that, and that's indeed what I'm showing. All right, much, much better. Now I've got to bring it down and put it into the proper range, and it wants me to put it into the range, let's see, D17 to G28. So I'm going to bring this over to G. Whoa, my goodness. It took off on me. All right, so I'm going to bring this over to column G, and I'm going to bring this up to row 28. We don't need a title for this chart, so I'm going to click on it and hit delete. And I believe, let me read it again. Okay. Create a cost, step number 5, create a cost volume profit chart of the revenue and expenses, not net income, values in the one variable data table. Resize the chart so that it covers the range D17 to G28. Format the chart so that it is easy to read and displays the break-even point. Again, that's right where they cross. That's my break-even point. Okay, let's move on. We're going to do a two-variable data table next. Okay. So I scroll over so I can see my work area here. Step 6. In the range I6 to N16, create a two-variable data table in which possible units sold values are placed in the range I7 to I16. I7 to I16 containing values from 1,000 up to 10,000 in 1,000 unit increments. So yet again, just like I did in the one variable table, I do 1,000, I type 2,000 so that it knows that I want to use 1,000 increments. I highlight both cells, use my fill handle to drag down, and it will continue to count by 1,000s for me. Okay, continuing on with step 6. Place the possible average unit price in the range J6 to N6 containing values from 400 to 600 in $50 increments. So I type 400, then I type 450, I highlight the two cells, use my fill handle, and it will continue to count by 50s up to 600 for me. Perfect. Have the data table display the net income for each combination of units sold and average price. Format the formula in cell I6 to display the text units sold rather than the net income value. Well, first let's get the net income value. So I click in I6 and I do equals, like we did earlier, and point to the cell that has the net income, which is B28, and hit enter. Okay, so that's fine, but they don't want the actual value to appear. They want the words units sold. So what this is going to require me to do is, instead of just typing units sold, because if you just did that, you're going to lose your reference to that cell. So you still want it to be net income, referring to net income. So what we have to do is go to the home ribbon. I'm going to click the down arrow for the white box, and I'm going to go to More Number Formats. I go to Custom, and in here, I'm going to type a new thing, and I'm going to do quotes, units sold. It has to be within quotes. Close my quotes. Quote, units, space, sold, quote. Click OK, and now what shows up is the text that I just customized, even though it's still referring to net income in my worksheet. Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to create a two-variable data table. So I highlight the range I6 down to N16. I6 to N16. We're going to go back to the data ribbon, and we're going to go back to the what-if analysis and data table. As I said earlier, now we're going to fill in both of these because it's a two-variable data table. My row, which is right here, the 400, the 450, and the 500, are average prices per unit. So I want to point to that cell, which is B7. So that's where I wanted to put in the different values, such as 400, it's going to place it in there. Then it's going to place 450 in there, etc. The column input cell is my units sold, which is B6. So literally what it's going to do is it's going to put 1,000 into B6 and then 400 into B7 and calculate my net income. And then it's going to do that for every one of these scenarios and automatically fill in my table instead of me having to do it by hand. I click OK. And look at that, it fills in my table. I don't have to manually do that by hand for each and every combination. Pretty nifty, okay? Now, if you're not sure what you're doing, please don't try to fool me and try to fill in the numbers by you doing the combinations by hand, which would take you forever. You're the ones that are going to be emailing me saying, I've spent hours on this assignment. Well, that should not require hours. So don't do it by hand, because on top of that, you probably will get it wrong, marked off wrong by me, even though you put all that effort, because that's not the correct way to do it. Okay, now step 7. Create a scatter chart of the net income values from the two variable data table, displaying each average sale price as a different line in the chart. Format the chart appropriately. Make sure that the chart legend identifies each line by the average sale price value listed in row 4. Resize the chart so that it covers the range I-17 to N-28. Okay, well, let's select the range that we want to chart. So we're going to select the range I-7 all the way over to N-16. I-7 to N-16. I'm going to go to the Insert ribbon. I'm going to go to Charts and pick the same chart that we used earlier, Scattered with Straight Lines. I'm going to click on that. And let's go ahead and resize it for right now. So they want it in the range, let me read this, I-17. So I'm going to put it right in the corner of I-17 to N-28. So I'm going to resize it over to column N. And I'm going to go down to row 28. Actually, I'm going to have to move it up a little bit. And there we go. Now, a couple of different things here. One is they specified that they want the series to be represented by the 400, the 450, the 500. So what I have to do is edit my series here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Chart Design ribbon and select data. Now, if you click outside your chart, you're not going to see that. You have to be on your chart to get that ribbon. Chart Design, select data. Series 1, I'm going to edit that and say that the series name that I wanted to use is actually J6. Click OK. I'm going to do the same thing for Series 2. Click on it, edit. I want K6. Click OK. Series 3, edit. Click on L6. Click OK. 2 more to go. Series 4, edit. I'm going to click on M6, click OK, and Series 5, edit, click on N6, click OK. Click OK, and now I know which line is which. Okay? Don't need the chart title. Click on it and hit delete. And let's move our legend over to the right. I'm going to right click on my legend down here, go to Format Legend, and tell it to go to the right. Put a dot there, and then I can close that. And I think that looks appealing to me. Good enough. All right. 1 variable table and 2 variable table. We're done with steps 1 through 7. Good job, everybody. They're not easy. This material is getting harder, of course, because it is a level 3 course, so it's expected that you had to put amount of time in during the summer on these worksheets. And luckily, I've only given you 1 case problem to do, so you should be able to spend much time on it. Okay, step number 8. Use the scenario manager to display the financial impact of the different scenarios listed in the figure 10-47. So first, we got to find where this scenario manager is. So we're going to go to Data, What If Analysis, and there's Scenario Manager. So I click on Scenario Manager. Okay. No scenarios defined. Choose Add to add scenarios. So I click Add. My first scenario name is called, and if I look up at the very top, they're in bold letters there. The first column is Status Quo. So I'm going to choose Status Quo as my first scenario name. My changing cells are what is in the left column there. Units produced and sold is going to be different for each scenario. So that's one of my changing cells. So I'm going to find where that is in my worksheet. Units produced and sold is B6. So I click on B6. Now for the rest of these, I have to have my control key held down to add additional cells. So I'm holding down my control key. The next one down says average price per unit. So I click on B7. So I now have B6 and B7. Then I'm going to scroll down because it wants salary and benefits, which is B19. Then it has shipping and distribution, which is B20. Stocking and storage, which is B21. And finally miscellaneous, which is B22. So I'm going to have a total of 6 changing cells. I'm not going to worry about putting a comment in. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now it's nothing more than data entry. So I look at the status quo and I type in 6,000 for my units produced and sold, 515 for average price per unit. You get the idea. 625,000 for my salaries and benefits, 105,000. Okay. Looks like 90,000 and 75,000 for miscellaneous. Now, some of you might have said those were the exact numbers that were in there. Well, since this is status quo, it should be the exact numbers, but just in case I typed over them. Click OK. There's my first scenario. I've got 3 more to do. So I click Add. My next one is called Increased Production. Increased Production. The changing cells, yay! They're the same changing cells. I do not have to worry about that. At this point, all I got to do is click OK and do my data entry. So after you do your first one, the rest of them are extremely easy. 7,000. It's just nothing but data entry at this point. 515. 750,000. 125,000. 100,000. And 85,000. Now, since I know I have another one to do, instead of clicking OK and then Add, I can just do Add. My third one is called Reduced Production. Again, the changing cells are exactly the same, so I just click OK and do my data entry. 5,000. 515. 515,000. I'm sorry, my glasses I don't have my glasses, and some of these numbers are really tough to see. 90,000. 75,000. And finally, 55,000. I got one more to do, so I'm going to click Add. And this one's called Winter Sale. Okay. Changing cells are the same. Click OK and do my last bit of data entry. 7,500, 7,500, 485, 725,000, 115,000, 90,000, and 60,000. Click OK, and we have our 4 scenarios. That's step number 8. Step number 9 on page EX653. Create a scenario summary report of the 4 scenarios produced by Arena, displaying their impact on total revenue, total expenses, and net income. Move the worksheet to the end of the workbook. All right, so I'm going to click on Summary right here. Summary. I want to do a scenario summary. And down here in the results cells, it tells me it wants total revenue. I'm going to delete what's in there right now. I'm not going to take a chance of what was in there. I'm going to scroll down until I find total revenue, hold down my control key, total expenses, and net income. This will give me those results for all of my different scenarios, the 4 scenarios. I click OK, and it creates a nice summary that shows me what cells I'm changing, what the values are that I did my data entry for, the names of the scenarios, and what each one produces as far as total revenue, total expenses, and net income. Now, the only other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this worksheet and move it to the very end. So I'm going to click and hold down the left side of my map and drag that to the very end. And that's step number 9. Okay, let's go back to the income statement. Create a scenario pivot table report of the 4 scenarios, displaying the total revenue, total expenses, and net income under each scenario, formatted using the currency style with no decimal places. Remove the filter from the pivot table, and in cell A1, enter scenario report as the sheet title, formatting using the title cell style. All right, so here we go. We're going to go back to data and what if analysis and scenario manager. And there's all my scenarios. I'm going to go to the summary button just like I did last time. But this time I'm going to select Scenario Pivot Table Report. And the result cells are exactly the same. Total revenue, total expenses, and net income. So I don't have to do anything there. I click OK. And there is my pivot table. So create a Scenario Pivot Table Report of the 4 scenarios. There they are. Displaying the total revenue. Perfect. Total expenses and net income. Format using the currency style with no decimal places. As I've told many of you in my comments when I've done grading, format all numbers appropriately in a pivot table. So I select these numbers. All I have to do is go to the home ribbon, pick currency, and no decimal places. Okay? Let me continue to read here. It says remove the filter from the pivot table. So I'm going to click and drag this out. Does not want to filter. And in cell A1, enter scenario report. All right. And using the title cell style. So I click on A1. I go to my cell styles on the home ribbon, and I pick title. Perfect. We're done with step number 10. 11. Add a pivot chart of the pivot table displaying the data as a clustered column chart positioned over the range A8 to D20. Format the chart to make it easy to read and interpret. So I click in my pivot table, anywhere in my pivot table, doesn't matter where. And on the pivot table analysis ribbon, I have pivot chart. So I'm going to click on that, and it recommends cluster columns, so that's fine. Right there it is. I click OK, and there's my cluster column chart based off my pivot table. It wants it to cover the range A8 to D20, so I'll move it to A8 to D20. Up a little bit. No, actually it was perfect. D20. Okay. And it says format the chart to make it easy to read and interpret. I think it's just fine the way it is. So we're done with step number 11. Step number 12. 12. The product line worksheet. So let me go ahead and click on product line worksheet. Lists 5 snow blower models produced and sold by Cultivar Tool. So we have CT111, CT151, etc., etc. Use Solver. So let's go to Solver. Now, first of all, Solver is on the data ribbon down at the very far right. If for some reason you're not seeing that, it is considered an add-in feature. You actually have to ask for it. It does get installed when you install Excel, but you have to actually ask for it. Once you ask for it, it's always there on your ribbon and available to you. So if you're not seeing it, don't panic. We have to go to File and Options down at the very bottom. Okay. File, Options. You're going to go to Add-ins. Look for add-ins in the left column there. You're going to want to say Manage Excel Add-ins. So if it says anything different, use the drop-down arrow and pick Excel Add-ins and click Go. And make sure that there's a check mark in the box that says Solver Add-in. If there's not a check mark, click in there, put a check mark, and then click OK, and that will install Solver at the end of your data ribbon. So I'm going to click on Solver. The product line worksheet lists the 5 snowblower models produced and sold by Cultivar Tool. Use Solver to find the product mix that maximizes, find the product mix that maximizes the value in C24. So my set objective is C24. They tell me that right in the instructions. So I go to C24. That's what I want up there, and I want to maximize it. So I want to make sure that the dot is next to maximize. By changing, so now we have changing value cells, by changing the values in the range B11 to F11. So I'm going to come up here to find B11 to F11, and I'm going to select that range. So C24 maximize by changing the values from B11 to F11. Okay. This would be like, I'm just going to go off on a tangent here a little bit. This would be like if you were a manager in a McDonald's and you have to put a schedule together every week of who works where and how many, and you know that you need like 8 people on the drive-through, the cooks, and the work in the front line. And all of a sudden you have people that come up to you, Mr. Whiteman, I'm going on vacation with my family and I can't work this week. Or, Mr. Whiteman, I've got a big party to go to on Thursday night, and I'm not going to be able to work Thursday night. And you have all of these things. To put the schedule together would be nearly impossible. The feature Solver actually would help you because you could put all of those constraints in there. Joe Blow can't work on Friday night. Steve Whiteman can't work this week. You put all of those constraints, is what we call those. And it will actually solve it for you. It will say, well, then here's the people that need to work to maximize, that you need 8 people every night. So this is pretty neat, this Solver. It actually solves the problem for you, hence called Solver. So we're going to maximize C24 by changing the values in B11 to F11. And here are some of the constraints. Each bullet point is a different constraint. So I have to add a constraint. Add. The total snowblowers produced and sold as indicated in cell C19, so let me click on C19, must be 6,000. So in the middle box, I'm going to put equals, and in the constraint, I'm going to put 6,000. And click OK. I've added my first constraint. C19 equals 6,000. That's my first bullet point. I'm going to add a second constraint. Second bullet point, at least 700 of each model as specified in the range B11 to F11 must be produced and sold. So I'm going to select B11 to F11 and say that greater than or equal to 700 because it says at least 700 of each model as specified in the range B11 to F11 must be produced and sold. That's my second constraint. I click Add to add my third bullet point constraint. The values in the range B11, so again I'm going to select B11 to F11. B11 to F11 must be integers, meaning like if you were trying to order a couch and a chair, you don't want a 3.24 chair. That means you don't have enough legs. So we want a whole number to be ordered. So I drop this down and I pick INT for integer. Give me a whole number in the answer. Don't give me a 0.24 or 0.76. Click OK. That's my third constraint. I have one more to do, one more bullet point. So I click Add. This one says the values in the range K29 to K48. So I'm going to go ahead and select that first. K29 Okay. Right here, K29 down to K48. All right, so let me read this. The values in the range K29 to K48 must be greater than or equal to, so I'm going to check that in the middle box, greater than or equal to 0, because cultivar food cannot produce more snowblowers than the available parts. I click OK, and I now have my 4 constraints. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click close at this point. No, maybe I better click solve. I'll click solve. Okay, and then I'm going to close this box just for now. Everything is saved, so we don't have to worry. Step 13, enter maximum net income in cell A26. So I go to A26, and I'm literally going to do a data entry, maximum net income. Okay. In cell A26, formatted using the accent to cell style. So I'm going to click on A22, go to my home ribbon, cell styles, accent to. Save the solver model you just created into that range A27 to A34. So I'm going to click on A27. So I go back to my data ribbon, what if analysis, and I'm sorry. We're going to go to solver. My fault. We're going to go to solver, and I'm going to go to load and save. The range that I want to save this to is A27 to A34. And then I click save, and it saves all the information for that particular solver. So I click close. Step 14. Change the values in the range B11 to F11 to 1,200 units for each model. B11, so it already looks like it is, but we'll go ahead, do 1,200. Okay. Okay. Then I'm going to go back to solver. Or am I? Let's see. Then rerun solver to find the product mix that minimizes the total material cost in cell C21. All right, so I'm going to go back to solver. This time it says to minimize the total material cost in cell C21. So set objective is now C21, and I want to do minimize. Minimize. Rerun solver to find the product mix that minimizes the total material cost in C21 subject to the same constraints you used in the maximum net income model. All right, so now I click solve. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to move on to step number 15. Enter minimum material cost in cell A36. So I'm going to scroll down to A36, and I'm going to type in minimum material cost. In cell A36, formatted using the accent to again. So home ribbon, cell styles, accent to. Save the solver model to this range. Okay, so I go back to my solver yet again. Data ribbon, solver, load and save. This time I'm going to pick the range A37 to A44. Click save and close. All right, now I'm on to step 16. Restore the values in the range B11 to F11 to 1,200 again if we need to. Yeah, looks like we do. So B11, so we're going to change it back to 1,200. And I'm going to copy that all the way across to F11. Okay. Restore the values in the range B11 to F11 to 1,200 units of each model is produced. Load the maximum net income model into solver and then run solver. All right, so let's do that. Go back to Solver. We're going to go to Load and Save. And this time we're going to select the range of where we saved the other solver. Let's see, so it says load the maximum. So we're going to scroll up and find the maximum, this one, and highlight the range A27 to A34. It will use that then to load into Solver. So this time I click Load to load that range into it. And we'll say Replace. And voila, we've got that. I'm still on step 16. Create an answer report. All right, so if I solve this now, I have an answer report sitting right there. So I can click on Answer Report so that it will create it. And then I'm going to click on OK. And did I do it? I don't see my answer report. Should have put it down here. Let's try that again. Solver. I'm going to solve it. Click on Answer Report. Click OK. And I must be getting it and didn't realize it. There it is, Answer Report. I'm going to move that to the end. I'm not sure if it did it the first time and I just missed it, but there it is. Okay. Step 17. In the product line worksheet, so I'll go back to the product line worksheet. In the merge cell C26, enter notes indicating which snowblower parts are a binding constraint on the maximum net income solution. Okay, I'm not too worried about this. So what you would do is kind of go back and look at things and see if you can come up with your own scenarios of what's going on. I'm cheating, to be honest with you. I've already wrote something up in a Word document. So I'm going to simply open up my Word document and cut and paste it into the comment area there. Okay, apparently it's not going to like that. So, but anyway, I would type a comment in here of something or other of what I thought the reports were saying. I'm not going to be too concerned about that in creating your homework, to be perfectly honest with you. Okay, I'm going to save this, and I'm going to close it, and I'm going to stop my recording and wish you the best of luck on Module 10. I hope this will be very beneficial to you. Thank you and have a great day.